What happens when you mess up in a weight loss program? That happens so often to people, and so I really want to address this issue because it's something that really brings people's spirits down. And sometimes people panic, and when they realize they've messed up with something, they panic and say, oh, I'm just not good at this, I can't do this, and they're tempted to just throw their hands up in the air and give up. And I want to prevent you from feeling that pain, from going through that. I wanted to teach you how to respond, how to minimize that happening again. And so I'm going to discuss that today. The first thing I want to say to you is give yourself grace if you feel you messed up. Mistakes happen, we are human. And no matter what we do, no matter what goal we take on, success with goals is not a direct line where you start, you go straight ahead. No matter what goal you start, there are some setbacks usually along the way. And the important thing is that we make progress and that we minimize the setbacks. So I'm going to talk a lot about that today. But I do want you to give yourself some grace. And I am going to point out that sometimes when you fall off the track, it's not your fault. I'm going to explain that. And there are a lot of reasons that people mess up on a weight loss program. So maybe you were at a party or a wedding or at a restaurant or some social special event. And there were a lot of desserts there, a lot of high-calorie foods, a lot of fancy foods, and you just got tempted and lured in. And I will tell you that happens a lot. Or maybe you had a stressful day or some emotions came up for you, and you found yourself stress eating or emotional eating. I'm going to talk about that too. Maybe you just felt frustrated by the rigidity of the rules of a diet you're on. And I talk about that a lot. So many of the common diets that are out there are crazy, fad, extreme, rigid, and limiting diets. They expect you to starve to cut calories. They have a lot of extreme rules. They are fad programs that people go on and go off because they can't maintain them. And many of them are very rigid and limiting, where they expect you to eat from a very narrow range of foods, all high fat or low fat or high carb or low carb, high protein, low protein. So many different types of extreme narrow programs. And most people can't sustain or maintain those types of eating habits. And we've heard so often about the yo-yo diet cycle that many of the programs end up where people fall off track and don't reach or maintain a permanent good result, a weight loss. So the first thing I want to tell you, if you mess up and you're on one of these crazy, extreme, rigid, limiting, fad type of programs, it's not always your fault that you didn't adhere, you didn't maintain to the crazy, fad, extreme, rigid rules. Most people can't maintain to many of those programs. And I tell people, if you find that you can't maintain to a program and you realize that the rules are very rigid and extreme and fad, it may just be you need to say goodbye to this program and find a program that's practical and realistic and attainable. And I tell people, weight loss programs shouldn't be painful, they shouldn't be stressful. They should make sense so that you feel comfortable with them. Again, crazy programs make us feel stressed, and stress releases stress hormones, which keep us in fat storing mode. We need to feel comfortable with a diet Any of the programs that I recommend to my clients are not stressful, because stress, rigidity, narrow, rigid rules, in most cases, make people feel stressed, and they are not maintainable, sustainable for the long term. Reasons that you don't get long-term results, and reasons that people commonly fall off track. So you should demand of any program that you go on that it's sustainable, that the rules are reasonable and practical. They won't tell you you can eat everything in the world, but they also shouldn't be so narrow that you are expected to starve and be hungry or feel deprived, or that you have to sustain such a narrow category of food unless you love that food and you feel you can live on it forever, which in my experience and people that I talk to is very, 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 very rare. And the programs that I recommend to my clients do not have those types of narrow categories or rigid rules. So again, setbacks do happen, but was the setback your fault? Did you have a reasonable, practical program and you just fell off? And we'll talk about that. Or was the program unreasonable and you fell off because it just wasn't sustainable? And then I say, you demand of a program to be reasonable. You just leave that crazy program, that crazy fad program behind, and say, I'm going to find a reasonable program. That's what Sarah did. When she came to me, she told me she had tried a bunch of different programs and felt that they were not doable. They were so extreme, and there are so many extreme programs out there. And the program I had her do, she renamed Happy Weight Loss, because it was comfortable for her, it was pleasant, and she felt that she could move forward and keep momentum, and she did. And Sarah lost 67 pounds with the program that she calls, my program, Happy Weight Loss. So it is doable, and I want you to know and feel that falling off track is not necessarily your fault. Again, if you've been on a crazy, extreme, rigid, fad diet that where the rules seem crazy, you should feel, how was I supposed to sustain this? I want to find a reasonable, practical program. Another reason, so sometimes it's not that it's a crazy program. Sometimes people find, I had a stressful day at work, or I had an emotional day. Something happened and I went and I grabbed food, or I started having sugar cravings, or some of these repetitive eating habits that I've talked about in our group, binge eating, night snacking, boredom snacking, and sugar cravings, and all these type of repetitive habits. Most of the crazy, rigid, extreme fad programs that I've talked about just expect you to follow their rules point blank. They don't teach you to eliminate the pattern eating habits. So how are you supposed to deal with it when you get a strong sugar craving, or if you have a stressful day at work? And I tell people, if you fell off track because you didn't know what to do to stay on track, that your diet program didn't teach you to eliminate sugar cravings or stress eating or comfort eating or binge eating or night snacking or whatever your habit is, then it's not your fault you fell off, because you weren't taught to deal with an issue that's keeping you stuck and holding weight. Any diet program, any weight loss program you consider should have what I call obstacle eliminators, or I like to say it in a funny way, obstacle eaters. So if you experience these repetitive eating habits like sugar craving or stress eating or binge eating or night snacking, any of the ones we've spoken about, there are a lot of them. Your program must have a module or a section to teach you how to get rid of sugar cravings, how to stop them, how to stop stress eating, and know what to do when you have a stressful day so you don't take it out on food. How to stop binge eating if that's your habit. And we know habits are hard to change. There are books and videos that talk about how hard it is to change habits. You can't start a weight loss program and expect a long-standing habit just to stop because you decide or a diet decides it should stop. You need support. You need guidance to teach you how to stop that habit. You deserve it. You merit it. If you want to lose weight, you need the support and plan to help you through those obstacles. You need obstacle eliminators, or as I call them, obstacle eaters. Let's say you went to a special event, a wedding or a holiday party, or you were on vacation, or you were in a restaurant, and there was more food than you could handle. Again, a good full scope diet program should have a module, should have a section to teach you how to eat successfully if you go to a restaurant, if you're at a social event, if you're at a wedding or a special party. You should have plans in advance to know how to deal with this so that you're not there and your diet plan tells you you should starve or deprive yourself when you're seeing all this, or eat from a narrow category. You need to have support and a plan to think out in advance how you're going to handle this. And so if your plan didn't give that to you, it's really not entirely your fault that you couldn't stay on track. You need to demand of any program that you take on that it teaches you, that it helps you eliminate these obstacles that are long-standing habits in your life. And again, I say a weight loss program should have obstacle eliminators or obstacle eaters. They should eat up your long-standing habits that are getting in the way and keeping you stuck in your weight, like sugar craving and stress eating and emotional eating, or binge eating, or whatever it is that's keeping you stuck. You need help to get out of this habit, this long-standing habit. It is not your fault if you take on a program and they don't pay any attention that that's a long-standing habit. You deserve happy weight loss, like my client called it, and she had modules which helped eliminate her sugar cravings and helped her plan, if she's in social events or going out to restaurants, what she wants to do. So again, I like to encourage people to have a practical, reasonable plan for weight loss that doesn't expect you to get out of your habits that you've had without assistance, without guidance, without support. You deserve all of that. That is part of the reason why you're stuck in holding on to weight. And you need that as part of a program to help you get out of those habits that keep you in weight holding, like sugar cravings, like stress eating, like comfort food habits, all of these. And when we go on vacation, when there's different food around us, or to weddings or social events, how can we think about handling ourselves successfully with different food than what we're used to on a regular daily basis? If you haven't prepared for that and you slip up and you mess up, it's really not entirely your fault. So the key is, if you mess up, to get back on track as fast as you can. Just say, you know what, I made a mistake, I had a slip up, I'm going to get back on track. As long as you feel you have a reasonable, practical weight loss program. If you feel that you fell off track because you have sugar cravings or stress eating, or you've been on vacation at a social event or wedding, or a reason that your weight loss program didn't help you prepare for, or if you're on one of these crazy, fad, extreme, rigid, and limiting diets that really is not maintainable, then your job is to find a practical, realistic, attainable program. And I talk about these with people all the time to help them find the right program for what they need. So the reality is, it's not one size fits all. It isn't that the same diet helps everybody lose weight, as you've been led to believe that most of these weight loss programs tell everybody to lose weight in their plan. And that's not how it works. People have different obstacles holding them, that cause them to hold weight, that cause them to stay in fat storing mode, and that cause them to be in sugar craving mode, or whatever it is, to have a habit. Again, you need to have support to help you learn to make choices and to have a comfortable plan for eating so that you don't feel deprived when you go to restaurants or special events. There's no reason to feel deprived. So I tell people to use the acronym SOAPS, SOAPS. You might have heard me say that before. Any program, you should demand of any program, and I explain to people that I work with why the programs I recommend fit these criteria. SOAPS, the first letter S. Any weight loss program has to be sustainable. You need to look at it and say, I can do this. If there are crazy, extreme, rigid, fad rules, then don't take on a crazy program, because it's not sustainable and you're not going to get long-term results. O in SOAPS is obstacle eliminator. Whatever obstacles you have, whether it's sugar cravings or stress eating, or whether you feel you have a slow metabolism, a weight loss program has to address those issues to help you out of the mode of being stuck so that you can move forward. Otherwise, again, it's not your fault if you can't sustain or maintain a plan that doesn't meet your needs. And A and P is attainable and practical. These crazy rules, I don't know how people are expected to live with them, and that is why we have the yo-yo diet cycle, because people don't maintain. Even if they lose, they go back where they started most of the time. And that is not healthy. That is not where I want people to spend their time and their money and their effort. I want people to work on a program that gets you permanent weight loss finally, so you get this done and you move forward to the rest of your life. I want you to put this behind you with a practical, realistic program, like my client called it happy weight loss. So if you mess up, if you slip up, remember, in most cases, it's not entirely your fault. Most likely, there's something about your diet plan that didn't help prepare you to stay on. We've been talking about the acronym SOAPS. It should be sustainable, an obstacle eliminator, or an obstacle eater, as I call it. AP, it should be attainable and practical. And S, you should have support so that you know that this is a plan that you can follow, that's realistic for you. If you have questions that come up along the way, you have somebody who can guide you and help you stay on, as opposed to feeling like you fell off track and you feel helpless. What do I do? Well, I may as well give up. You deserve and merit to have support. And finally, there are different steps in weight loss. There are things you do when you start out. There are steps you do when you're actively moving along, and there are steps you do to fine-tune, get past a plateau that people often reach. Again, the one-size-fits-all, telling everybody to do the same thing for weight loss and to do it when you start and you're getting past a plateau is not realistic, and is one of the reasons why we have a yo-yo diet cycle. We need realistic plans that people can do so that they don't mess up and slip up and blame themselves. I always feel so bad when I hear people blame themselves and say, I messed up, I slipped up, I fell off the path, when the path really wasn't sustainable, maintainable, realistic in the long term. So, again, if you mess up in a weight loss program, I advise you first to give yourself grace. Remember that sometimes there are mess-ups along the way, but we want to minimize the mess-ups. So if you slip up, try to get right back on the path and say, I'm going to get back on and adhere, as long as you feel you have a practical, realistic, attainable program. If you look back and you think, this is crazy, this is extreme, this is fad, this is so limiting, people can't really live with this. If you feel that it's really the program, it's the path that was the fault, then find a different weight loss program. Demand that your program be realistic, practical, sustainable, and attainable. Demand that it's sustainable, that it gets rid of your obstacles, and that you have support so that if you have questions, you have somebody to go to. You don't feel like throwing your hands up and saying, I'm not good at this, I can't do this, this is my fault. So again, I really congratulate you for being here and being committed and wanting to get that permanent weight loss. I want you to realize that in most cases when I talk to people and they talk about how they messed up, they realize that they messed up on a plan and a pathway that was not sustainable or practical for them in the first place. I'd be happy to help you find a plan that really meets your needs, that attends to your obstacles to eliminate them, and to be an obstacle eater, and to be attainable, practical, and realistic for you so that you can get permanent weight loss without feeling it's your fault if you had a problem along the way with a program that wasn't sustainable to begin with. So I congratulate you for being here. I hope this takes some of the weight off of your shoulders if you've ever messed up on a weight loss plan, and that I hope you really will demand of any weight loss program that you take that it helps you through getting rid of your obstacles and teaching you what to do when you go, if you're going to go to a restaurant or a social event, or if you're on vacation. All of these things need to be handled in advance so that you feel you can live life. So it is my pleasure to be here with you to talk about all the important parts of dieting and getting permanent weight loss, even if you find you make a little slip or mess up, so that you can minimize them and get back on track as soon as possible with a sustainable, realistic weight loss program. So I will put my calendar in the comments section. If I can be of any help to you, let me know. I am going to remind you, if you're watching this in Facebook, I am here every Sunday at 7:30, so make sure you join me regularly. If you're watching this on YouTube, do please make sure that you hit like and make sure you subscribe so that when I do post new trainings, you can watch and learn and move forward with momentum as well. Let's get you to permanent weight loss. Let's get you through this with a realistic, as my client calls it, happy weight loss program, so you don't have to worry about falling off, so you can feel confident that you have a realistic plan that can give you permanent results. I can't wait to talk to those of you who will call. I've enjoyed speaking to many of you already. And remember, join me here again, same time, same place next week.